Puny Podians. What's up, y'all? Hey, this is Editing Bay Ryan, taking up my usual space here at the beginning of the episode. Wanted to jump on, explain real quick what was going on. So, of course, we're at Avengers Endgame. We always knew this was going to be probably one of the things we were going to talk the absolute most about, and we were right. So, rather than inundating you with a whole bunch of content all today and just clogging up your podcast listening for the next week straight, instead what we're going to do is we're going to release one episode today. This episode's going to be all of our kind of preamble sort of stuff, so all the production details and what we were thinking going into the movie. Then we will release an episode this coming Thursday. We will release that one. That will be the first half of our breakdown of the movie. The second half of our breakdown of the movie will come out next Tuesday, and then next Thursday we will release our final thoughts. So bear with us. Enjoy this. We loved Endgame. It's a great movie. Obviously, it deserves all this time. So enjoy all the great content. And past Ryan, take it away.
On your left.
Welcome to Puny Pod, the podcast who loves all of our listeners, 3,000. Welcome to Puny Pod, everyone, the Marvel fandom podcast where we rewatch the MCU in release order, and we cover Marvel news over on our monthly Bugle episodes. My name is Ryan, and my co-host, who hates the stairs, is David. David, we're off the rails early today.
I do like myself an escalator. Thank you.
You're welcome. And the giggles you can hear in the background are a guest who, as far as I'm concerned, has America's ass, Erik.
Hey. Yeah, thank you. I'm not known for giggling on podcasts. No.
Not at all. No giggles, straight faces.
Never.
We're gonna this is gonna be a straight
serious podcast. Please, can we get back to the facts?
We got such bad reviews after our Dan episode that
I loved. Those multiple episodes that I loved more than anything I've listened to in weeks.
Well, we are at the sort of end of the Infinity Saga. We have one more movie after this in the Infinity Saga, but I would say this is the climax where Spider-Man becomes the falling action. We are at the climax of the Infinity Saga. We are at Endgame. We are in the Endgame now.
Officially, I have been invited to this podcast, whether they intended to or not.
Any movie title that has Avengers in it, it's like, oh man, Erik is showing up on the Zoom.
Yeah, except for the one that you forgot to invite me to. That was the point.
It means, Erik, we don't.
What do I pay you for?
It also means that we don't get to hear your voice on our show for another several years.
Forever, because there's no more Avengers ever.
Yeah, ever.
Yeah.
Other than the ones where they're basically doing Infinity War and Endgame again.
Or Erik just says, hey, if this person were an Avenger at any point in time, I'm just going to bop in. Right?
You know what? Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, please.
Maybe we need to get you in on the Marvels so that you can defend your Captain Marvel.
I do love the Marvels. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no complaints. You can complain. I will argue against you. Yeah.
There we go. Well, Erik, before we get into a 4-hour episode where people start to tune out, is there anything you
4 hours? I have work to do.
Is there anything you want to plug early before people start tuning out?
Oh, okay. Bowie splaining. We still put out episodes. We just put out Low yesterday. I don't know when this is releasing. But yeah, Bowie Splaining. If you'd like to learn more about David Bowie, I'm learning about David Bowie. And our friend Dan, who was on the Captain Marvel episode, he's teaching me about David Bowie. And there you go. I'm also on a bunch of other Disney podcasts. And if you listen to a Disney podcast, I'm probably on it. And
Heck
if
yeah.
you don't like it, I'm probably not the one that's on it.
Especially theme park that
Theme
one.
park the Disney. Yes.
Yeah, podcast the ride.
You know what? No shade. That's okay. Let's just get it out there. Podcast the Ride, one of my favorite podcasts. I love the people on it, but I have a feeling that the fans keep looking at other podcasts out there, including our own. It's weird.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't get it.
It's one of those things where it's kind of weird because, like, I wonder how much of it is the fandom just has a collective hive mind.
Yeah.
And all just kind of arrives at the same place at the same time.
Oh, and I've done that. Yeah, it's been a thing that's happened so many other times with other podcasts where we've covered the same topics within a short period of time. But Podcast the Ride lately, it seems like the fans are looking at our show and going, they did a show about Toad. Do you guys want to do a show about Toad?
Erik is also here. I was going to say, I'm sorry, Erik, go ahead and finish.
Oh, no, go for it.
I was going to say, Erik is also here as our resident scientician to explain some of the facts of this
please.
movie.
I know more about time travel than the average podcaster, and I'm prepared to talk about time travel with no expertise.
Nice.
Yeah.
You went back in time to get that expertise, though, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I went back there, and younger me knew less about time travel than current me does.
Dang.
But you know what? I'll cobble it together. It just, whenever you want to kick to me, I will talk about time travel, and I will tell you how the time heist is. Spoiler alert on the time heist for this movie. I will tell you how that is completely cromulent, and there we go.
Ooh, that's a good word. Cromulent.
Cromulent, yes.
Well, David, why don't you give us some actual other words that I say that like it's a fake word. I'm sorry.
Why did you invite me to this show if you're not going to listen to my words?
David, why don't you jump in and give us the production details for this one? I know it should be pretty short because we kind of covered it all in Infinity War, but
pretty much.
What do we got?
I'm going to list every cast member. This is going to take about 30 minutes. No, this is Avengers Endgame, April 27, 2018. Moved up a couple weeks. The U.S. debut to avoid spoilers, because it was being released in other countries prior. It is technically the fourth film in the Avengers series, Phase 3, 10th installment, movie number 22. We finally got here. 3 hours, 2 minutes. It was shot back to back with Avengers Infinity War, knowing that it will be impossible to get these people together at the same time in the future. 200 days. Infinity War made 300. Production budget was 321. This was 400 million. Opening weekend for this movie, 357 million domestic.
Holy cow.
357 million total, of which 858 million was domestic gross. Worldwide gross, $2.748 billion with a B.
Whew.
It took 11 days to reach $2 billion at the box office. It was number one in 2019. It is the number one MCU movie of all time. It was the number one movie of all time in terms of gross. And
it's rated X, right?
It is rated X. The first rated X Disney movie. Avatar, I guess James Cameron was like, screw this. I'm going to re-release Avatar so I can nudge ahead. So lame. Anyway, it is the couple other facts. It is the highest ranking non-Chinese film. in China, making $588 million, the highest grossing foreign movie in India, and was translated in 5 languages there. Just a worldwide phenomenon. Critics, 94% on Rotten Tomatoes. Audience, 90% on Rotten Tomatoes. Number 2 critic score behind Black Panther. Not everyone loved it. Into the Clouds wrote...
Wait. 90%. Not everybody loved it.
Not everyone loved it. Into the Clouds wrote, another ruined once great franchise. More and more leftist political indoctrination from Beijing-controlled Disney until it gets so bad that you can't concentrate on the story or follow the plot anymore. I want to be entertained, not lectured to.
Dang it, Beijing!
Yeah, I can think of literally one scene. No,
Well-
two scenes, because he probably didn't like that there were whales in the Hudson.
Okay.
And the commentary on, environmentalism, and then the
Okay.
gold boss scene.
How?
The only...
I mean, one of the Russos dated a guy.
Oh, that's true. There was I went on a date with a guy.
I mean, wow.
So revolutionary,
woke.
so brave and stunning.
Don't lecture me, Beijing-controlled Disney. But that was not the only one. There was another person who's not happy. Lou Ferrigno did not like it.
Oh, that guy.
He didn't like how Smart Hulk... He didn't like Smart Hulk at all. He thinks Hulk's supposed to be scary and hideous. And evidently wasn't aware of the comic that this actually happens. And then he said, quote, we need good stories, good elements, good messages about life. Because when you see the series, even like the Twilight Zone, timely reference, the original Twilight Zone, he makes clear, you learn something from every episode. The CG, it's all different. People like it that way because it's bigger entertainment on the screen. So
I think someone's just upset that they're not voicing the Hulk anymore.
Yeah, or appearing as like a security guard on Morag or whatever. So, directed again, Anthony Joe Russo. They did Civil War. They did Winter Soldier. They did Infinity War. Rest Development Community. When asked how it felt that Endgame is the top grossing film of all time, they said, quote, it's unreal, surreal. It's very hard to process. Somebody wrote recently that for the first time in 45 years, the highest grossing movie ever was not directed by Spielberg, Cameron, or Lucas. Those are all our heroes. Those are all people who grew up watching them. We grew up there watching the movies and studying their films to learn how to become filmmakers. So it's weird. It's hard to process. Screenplay, Christopher Marcus, Stephen McFeely, same as before. Cast, there are 165 actors credited in this film, as opposed to 143. I usually take the cast, I put them in order. I put like how much time they're on screen. I put them in like casting the end credits order. I'm like, screw it. I don't have time for this.
It's all cameos for like payroll purposes, but
a lot of that. Yeah, this is the last contracted movie for Robert Downey Jr. Chris Evans. Let's pin that for about 3 hours from now. Jeremy Renner returns, as does his family. There's a lot of Russo family appearances in the movie. Director Joe Russo appears in the movie, as we mentioned before. This is Chadwick Boseman's final live-action appearance as Black Panther, as he died from colon cancer in 2020. So he did finish recording his voiceover for the first season of the animated show What If before his death. So cast includes 10 Oscar winners. Robert Downey Jr., Brie Larson, Tilda Swinton, Natalie Portman, sort of. Marissa Tomei, Taika Waititi, Michael Douglas, William Hurt, Gwyneth Paltrow, and Robert Redford. 8 other nominees. But more importantly, 4 cast members who were people's sexiest man alive were in this movie. Bradley Cooper, 2011. Chris Hemsworth, 2014. Mr. Paul Rudd, 2021. And Chris Evans, 2022. So those are your details behind the scenes.
Please, Senator Paul Rudd.
That's fantastic.
I'm making that up. I'm sorry.
Do you think
I'm not from the future. It's okay.
Do you think anything ever tops this movie for highest grossing of all time?
Sure, in the future, something will happen, right? Like, I mean,
Wizard of Oz 2.
I don't know. The like cinema landscape has changed so much, right? People don't go to the movies like they did. and like movies just don't gross what they did.
I can imagine 100 years from now when like tickets are like $300, you could see it, right? But yeah,
Yeah.
to your point, like I don't know of another movie phenomenon that will quite top this one, because this is like, in my mind, Marvel's past Star Wars. It's, when you look at that real drive for, as you say, Ryan, I don't see people going out to see. I don't know. It's hard to imagine that anything would top this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, that's you didn't ask me, but that's fine. I'm the guest, and I get to express my opinion here as well. It's so weird to think about a world where everyone everyone I know that was not a comic book nerd suddenly became a comic book nerd,
Yes.
and they wanted to know more. They
Yeah.
wanted to understand what led into this. And like, this comic book was from 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I
That's
here, let
what's
me
so
lend you
wild.
one.
Yeah. Yeah, I think about like I had this moment. This was probably 2020, I want to say. I had this moment like walking through Star Wars in Galaxy's Edge in Disneyland, where I was like, these things that like I was given swirlies for, not actually, but here we are.
Oh, not an actual swirly?
No,
Oh,
did not. I was saved
same.
from that. But they're now mainstream. And they're now like you see Lionel Messi doing the Avengers as his celebrations for goals. Like literally highest paid athlete, the biggest jock in the world is doing Marvel stuff as his thing. And so that's it's so interesting. And we'll get into it probably a little bit when we talk about what it was like to go see this movie for the first time and that sort of thing. But I think like that's what really stands out to me just culturally about these movies is just that, oh, I guess we're cool now. But not
Yeah,
really,
it's yeah, for a brief moment in time, we had the currency that people were looking for.
Yeah.
It was, wait, what else do I need to know? Well, let me tell you. No, 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 no. That's too much. but yeah, like it's for that brief moment, everybody was involved in this thing that we invested so much money and time in. That's what it led to. I remember like vibrating with like joy knowing that there was a Thor movie coming.
Oh yeah.
Like, oh no. Iron Man, okay, fine, whatever. Thor, yes. Sorry, Ryan. But it all led up to this, and then everybody in the world was involved. And when it finished, I can understand the mentality of, well, we finished all the comics, right?
Yeah. That was done, right?
Yeah, we finished the story. That was the Marvel Comics story. Where's Batman?
Right.
I do.
I was going to say, I do wonder though, like how much, like what percentage of viewership are people that were just not comic book fans, but watched it just to watch because everyone else, like kind of like the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
There are people that watch Super Bowl that don't care about football at all, and they don't want to be left out. So I don't know.
exactly. Yeah, it's the Super Bowl. You have to watch it.
Yeah.
It's Avengers Endgame. Do you realize that they killed all the good guys in the last movie? Watch that movie and then go watch the next movie. I don't know that they're coming back.
I also want to know what percentage of people watched this movie and didn't see the last one, and were just like, "What in the actual hell is going on here?"
They cut that guy's head off.
I
Well,
thought he was
who's
supposed to be-
that guy? Why did they cut the purple guy's head off? He seemed okay. He was a farmer. He's a farmer.
He's just there. He's cooking his own dinner. He is, farm to table. He is off the grid. What's to hate about him?
He just
Oh, there
picked
we
up
go.
a
There's
prickly
the leftist
pear.
propaganda. It's an anti-agricultural agenda it's an anti-rural, agricultural agenda by the Russos being pushed by pro-urbanists.
Dang it. And the Russos are very pro violence from their episodes of Community, where there are so many paintball guns going off. My goodness. Now we're moving into superheroes. Superheroes should be shot and beheaded. No, thank you.
What was your first viewing? I'm sure you guys remember the very first time you saw this, right?
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was a hard midnighter. I mean, like first showing, right? I think it was by this time the MCU had influenced the movie industry in such a way that like your first showing was no longer at midnight. And actually, one thing I remember
It was at
about
2 p.m.
this
the
one,
previous Tuesday.
yeah,
Yeah, I was going to say it's like a middle of the day on a Wednesday, like no
Well,
longer.
and that was one of the interesting things with this one is I remember that this movie had a premiere showing, and I don't remember if I went to it or not. I think I went a little later, but they had a premiere showing that was like it was like time and date across at least all the US time zones. So it was like at midnight on the East Coast, 11, in Central, in Mountain it was 10, and then on the West Coast it would have been 9 p.m. And so that showing was at the same exact time all the way across the country. There was a very big focus on like no spoilers, right? That was a big part of the culture around this was like, hey,
Oh
there
yeah.
can be no spoilers.
Because not everybody can go to a movie at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday.
exactly. So yeah, I know I saw it on that like Thursday night. And I remember I saw it at the it was not with the comic book group. The comic book group no longer had their deal with the movie theater. So
That was
one-
hard for me to hear on the previous episode.
yeah. Yep, it was sad. I actually found the button from I think I found the Captain Marvel button. So I think I was wrong. Past show correction. I think I did see that one with the Wyoming comic book group.
Oh, okay.
Because I think that one had the Olympus Games and Comics logo on it.
Do I have to
but-
second guess everything you tell me now?
No,
With that? Okay.
no. This
He's been
one I
lying
know
to
for
you
sure.
for
I
so
remember
long.
I saw it at the South. So there's 2 movie theaters in Fort Collins. Well, 3 plus a discount one.
Are there 7 movie theaters in Fort Collins? Come on. Stop gaslighting us.
So I saw it at the South Cinemark, which is the big like Cineplex style one. They didn't have assigned seating at that one, so we like had to go. We had to sit in line. Still kind of that culture around movies where you show up a few hours early, sit in line so that you can get the best seats in the theater, which was really fun, and like that's really cool. Great community around that, where you're kind of chatting with people and really excited. I don't think I wore the full Iron Ram costume, but I am certain I wore the helmet.
Nice.
I was with my now wife at the time, so we went to see this one together. And I was so excited for this one. I like it was the culmination, right? It's something that I had poured 10 plus years of my life into, and so really excited for this one for sure. David or Eric, do you guys have any remembrances of going into the first time of seeing this?
I just watched on Disney Plus for the first time, so I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
kidding.
Well, then I'll take over.
No, I think like everyone else, like it was, I think the 2 movies most 2 Marvel movies most looking forward to, and the initial viewing was Black Panther and then this movie. I remember going, preserving seat, not consuming any liquids beforehand because I didn't want to have to use the bathroom during the 3.5 hours, including movie trailers. And then
pinning that for me.
and then, okay. And then going out to Korean barbecue. We went like first thing in the morning and then went to lunch with my son afterwards. And so this is it. I mean, I've used it before. This is the magic trick. You know that people are going to come back, but how do they pull it off, and what happens, and what does it look like at the end? It was just, it's hard to describe like how enthusiastic and eager and just amped to see this movie.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same for me. I went to Alamo Drafthouse where I've seen so many movies over the last. I don't think I've seen a movie in a non-Alamo Drafthouse for a long time at this point. But coming from the last movie where I remember my wife crying because Infinity War and it's so dark. And there was the woman who was sitting a few seats down who's also crying, who had seen it. This was her second viewing, and she's like, "It doesn't get any better." We're like, "No, it's fine. It's fine. All of the heroes come back.
They're all in the Soul Stone. Don't worry.
They're all in the Soul Stone.
None of
kind
them
of
happen to be on an airplane.
But yeah, it was such a great day, and ultimately I think Infinity War was a bigger thing because as a comic book fan, looking around the room and seeing the grief from people around the room was more palpable.
Yeah.
Seeing the movie seeing Endgame with other people, it was similar. I guess the moment that kind of brought it all together. Spoiler alert: Captain America picks up Mjolnir, and hearing the entire theater erupt.
Yeah.
Like there's so much there's so much catharsis at the end of this movie. And for the people who have been with it for decades saying, I'm a nerd, and coming back to, oh, this is mainstream.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And then people who are just reacting to the movie as it was designed. This movie is designed for catharsis. It was made for, oh no, what are they going to do? Oh no, Tony can't die in the cold dark of space at the very beginning of the movie. That's awful. And then to see it come back around where he's the one who saves the day. Like everybody knew what they were doing with this. And watching it on that opening day, the entire theater, regardless of what their journey was to get to this point, we were all there together.
Yeah.
We were all experiencing this together. It was, oh my goodness, it was an event. And it's an event that I don't think we'll ever experience again.
It'd be very challenging. I mean,
holy cow.
I can't think of a property that's sitting at, 50, 60, 70 years of storytelling that hasn't been plucked and at least a run at it being a movie or media franchise has not happened, because that's ultimately what this is, right? We just celebrated 85 years of Marvel just a couple months ago. So you're looking at like 80 years at the time of this movie of storytelling, and then pile on top of that about a decade worth of movies that brought more people into the fold, and so that momentum, that loggerhead that got built, right? That
Right.
just awesome steam that got built. That this was triumphant, right?
Yeah.
Triumphant is probably the best word for it.
This next phase, I think people will latch on to Fantastic Four, especially with it being probably a period movie in the 60s. Awesome. I am in, but I'm in for every frickin' Marvel thing. I don't care. I'm a nerd. I want to see the stories from my childhood like put on the big screen. And I think some people that like this might bring people back. Like Fantastic Four in particular, I think will bring people back.
Mm-hmm.
But we're not going to get to the same place.
No.
It wasn't the same thing as, oh, almost every one of these movies leads to something incredible.
Yeah.
And at the end of the last movie, they all died. We don't know what's going to happen next. And all of us nerds are like, we kind of know what happens next. But they didn't do what happens next.
Right.
This is not the comics.
Right.
This did not happen in the same way. The comics were almost kind of flippant with the way that they put it out there. And in the film, we made this something that is so important feeling that it transmitted into the next few movies that we saw in the saga. And holy cow, like I don't remember this feeling from the comics in the 90s. I remember reading this. I remember reading it years later. I don't remember this feeling as impactful as these movies felt.
I can't imagine not seeing this movie in a theater with other people.
Oh gosh. Oh yeah.
Right. I can't imagine my first watches at home. I will still occasionally go back and look at like in-game reaction videos online of people losing their minds towards the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Cat picking up that hammer was insane.
Yeah.
And then a few minutes later, when everybody else showed up, and I guess we'll get there because it's only we're only an hour into this this show, but we'll get there. But when everybody else shows up and Wong looks at Doctor Strange and says, "You wanted more?" Like,
yeah,
everybody is there. They brought an army.
Yeah,
this is an epic. This is an epic that you don't see in movies. You don't see that many extras. This is Gladiator. I mean,
right.
This is why Gladiator was such a big movie, because they had so many people there. They put so much money into, let's get an actual crowd. Let's get thousands of people here watching this event and participating in this event, and let's put it on the screen. And there's a war happening in front of you.
Yeah.
I'm jumping way ahead.
No, you're good. You're good. I think, you know, I think that's part of the magic of this movie, and part of the magic of this podcast is going back and getting a little bit of that nostalgia and remembering what it felt like the first time we saw this. And I think, you know, during phase one, even up to Avengers, there was kind of that like in crowd, out crowd sort of situation, right? Where like the people who knew the comics were the in crowd, and they were excited. We all are part of that, and we all were excited. But by this point, this had become such a cultural touchstone. Marvel was cemented in the pantheon of movies.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I think you know, thinking back on that is really cool. Now, this next question is going to be a little bit goofy because I know, at least for me, I watch this dang movie all the time. But David or Eric, I will let one of you guys take the actual answer first. What were you thinking what were you looking forward to about going back to this movie this month?
I mean, obviously looking forward to it. This is what we've been talking about, Ryan, for the last couple of years, about getting to this moment. I wanted. I was a little bit nervous, quite frankly. Like there's so much in this movie that relates back to other movies. So it doesn't really lay the groundwork too much for future stuff, other than maybe Loki, the TV show.
Yeah, Loki and obviously Spider-Man.
Yeah,
There's some stuff that comes back up there.
Wait, Spider who?
yeah. Guy in the
No,
red.
we haven't got
They have
there
a
yet.
Spider-Man now?
I'm looking forward to it. Like this is, I just wanted to make, I felt this little bit of nervousness because I just want to make sure like we touch on everything. And
Yeah.
the other thing I wanted to know, from a viewing content perspective, I wanted to see if, after having seen all the other Marvel stuff, if the time stuff, if the quantum realm, if that made any more sense, and it does not. But anyway, how about you, Eric?
Yeah, I mean, looking forward to this. You have invited me to all of the Avengers movies, and so far you have paid off on this twice.
Twice out of 3. Hey,
Yeah,
we're
out of
doing
the
all
3.
right.
Here's number 4. We're increasing the percentage. It's a big deal because there was such an emotional connection to this movie for me, and with so many people. Like, what do you talk about? Is this movie good? I don't know. This is the culmination of so much of my life getting to this point. But is it good? I'm not a film critic. I just tell people what I like and what I don't like. And what I do like is this movie. And I've watched it so many times. And sitting down and watching it again could be like there's this little bundle of nerves. Like, is this real? Am I watching it again and am I getting the emotional connection to it? How does this connect to all of the other movies I watched recently? I I watch a lot of these movies often. And sometimes it's kind of haphazard, like, hey, let's just watch Captain Marvel again. Why? It has nothing to do with my friends doing a show on Captain Marvel. Um, but but yeah, all of this stuff builds in, and it's based on years of reading comics, which, to be fair, I don't read anymore. I don't read comics now. I don't read new comics now. I want
Fake
to.
fan.
Yeah. You know what? You know what? Get ready. Get ready. Here's the timestamp.
Language.
Off.
I kid. Oh, by the way, for anybody who wants to read comics, no, I'm just kidding.
But yeah, there's so much in my life that it like, this is entertainment that I like, and it's part of my past, and it's also modern day. But watching these movies and talking about them with you, it adds more relevance to it. So I'm also nervous to talk about this. Where watching it, I've watched this movie 3 times in the last 2 weeks. That's a lot of time.
It's a lot of time.
And it's just like, what am I getting out of this that's relevant to anybody? That's the thought. Like, am I offering anything interesting to anybody? And you know what? The 3 of us are, we're podcast celebrities, and we're all very insightful. And I think that's what's going to pay off in the end. But really, when it comes down to it, I really enjoy this movie. I really, really enjoy it.
Yeah.
And I enjoy it more. Infinity War is one of my favorites, but this one pays off. Everything before this movie builds to this movie, and every time I watch it, I can feel that weight. I can feel that pull of everything you have done in your life for the last 20 frickin' years builds to this.
Yeah.
And I'm not part of this movie. It's just it's partially the drama that of the movies that leads to it, and it's partially my life that leads to it. It's me saying the stories that I have invested my time and money in matter.
Right. Not to mention like all those friends that you've brought along to a movie here and there, or all the times you've been sitting at home and you've flipped on, Iron Man or Thor or whatever while somebody was over, or
And you're like, yeah, Mickey Rourke, he's totally, you know what, this is underrated. People make fun of this movie, but look at his performance.
That is true. We are recording this today on Black Friday. So I can, after this recording, I am going to go watch Iron Man 3 because it is a Christmas movie.
Oh, well.
I thought you said you were going to run to Walmart and go buy like a $200 TV with thousands of other people.
Buy the components for an electrical whip that you can slap at people and do nothing with.
But no, I agree with you guys. I think like as far as thinking about this towards the podcast lens, it was how do we do this justice? And thank goodness we already had overrun several movies by this point to where we're comfortable with you guys getting a lot of content sometimes on movies. And
thank goodness you did 6 episodes on Black Panther. I don't feel so bad about this one episode.
So yeah, I think going back to watching, I watch this movie all the time. I mean, this is one I'll watch YouTube clips of it. I will say that does not change how much my tear ducts have to do work during this movie, which we'll talk about in the breakdown here in a second.
Many times. Why?
Yes,
Why?
I think I counted 3 or 4 different times where I wept like a child.
Why are you so cold?
Yeah.
3 or 4 times. Come on.
So yeah, I it's not like I could have probably done this episode without watching the movie. I very much, this is one where I've seen it so many times I could have probably just rattled it off from memory.
Why did you tell me that before, man? You could have saved me hours of work.
But
I've watched it 3 times in the last week. I told you.
I watched it 0.25 speed.
Oh gosh.
It took me 12 hours.
But that's the value of this movie, and that's the value of this project, this podcast, is like, to do the work is to go back and watch it. And I think that this is one where I would have watched the movie without the podcast, but it is so rewarding now. Like
this
David
is
said,
why you started a podcast.
Yeah.
Maybe?
Yeah. This is truth be told, little bit of behind the scenes. When I first came up with the concept for this podcast, the original idea was actually to be a lot closer to what Bowie-splaining's doing. I originally wanted, like...
What are we doing?
A noob. I wanted a noob and a know-it-all.
Okay. I like it.
And you got neither.
Actually, my original concept was a noob, was a 3-host show, a noob, a know-it-all, and then like a comics know-it-all, and then
Eric's sitting in the background going, I knew it.
Yeah. And then a movie know-it-all. So somebody who was really well versed, had seen all the movies, somebody who really, really was well versed. Probably I would have played that role, the guy who had read a lot of the comics. And then ideally somebody who had seen none of the movies, but that is incredibly hard to find.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, somebody who's interested in podcasting that hasn't seen the movies.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. Really sorry. I did have a friend in college who had never seen any Star Wars movies,
Oh wow.
I had a
and
coworker.
we took Lisa to oh gosh, what was the first one? Because we showed her Phantom Menace, and at the end she's like, "Oh, that was menacing." Like, yeah, great. I think it was Attack of the Clones. That was the first movie we took her to in theaters. She's a great friend. But it was so interesting to work through this with her. This process where she had never seen anything Star Wars, and we started with Phantom Menace.
That's
That's wild.
Sorry.
That's wild.
I'm sorry, Lisa. You're not listening to this. It's okay. But sorry, America, for starting someone on Phantom Menace.
Oh man. Yeah. Yeah, so that was the original concept, was like I say, kind of two varying levels of know-it-all and a noob. Struggled to find hosts, ended up finding great co-host here in David.
You ended up with David?
Actually, thanks to Erik's suggestion. Truthfully, we're kind of this is like a landmark episode, so we should probably talk about some of this stuff, but we'll talk about it more probably in the phase wrap up or whatever, but yeah, so and at the time I wanted an excuse to go back and watch, especially like phase 2, where I watch Iron Man 3 every year, but other than that I don't watch phase 2 movies that much. And I was like, how do I capitalize on that, and like how do I make something interesting out of that? And thus Puny Pod was born. And so yeah, it really was that idea of like, we're just past Endgame. I want to go back and rewatch stuff. And so getting to Endgame is kind of one of those landmarks that the podcast was always kind of headed towards. It's a mile marker for sure.
It is the end of a phase.
Yeah.
Mostly. There's another movie.
It's the end. Let's be honest. Let's not kid ourselves.
Spider-Man, he gets his
Spider-Man's
things in.
phase, yeah.
I think that's a good summary of the phase while being a good movie.
Yes.
So are we talking about Spider-Man today or the other one?
Well, let's get into our breakdown.
Oh no.
So
this is a 3-hour movie and we're starting now.
Oh yeah. And we also have some closing thoughts.